So we're talking about Chicago and ICE. Over 300 ICE agents landed at a South Shore apartment building, rappelling from a Black Hawk helicopter. Repelling from a Black Hawk helicopter. Oh, sorry, I couldn't read that. Though framed as a strike on a Venezuelan gang, witnesses say the raid swept up entire families, children zip-tied, homes trashed, and people separated by race. So let's take a look at this.
She lives in this building, and she says she was detained by ICE agents overnight, and she says they took everyone and then asked questions later.
They just treated us like we were nothing.
Patricia Fisher says she came out to the hallway of her apartment complex on the corner of 75th and South Shore Drive in her nightgown around 10 Monday night, only to find ICE agents yelling police.
It was scary because I've never had a gun put in my face. They asked my name and my date of birth and asked me did I have any warrants, and I told them no, I didn't.
She says she was then handcuffed and released around 3 a.m. Fisher says she was told if anyone had any kind of warrant out for them, even if it was unrelated to immigration, they would not be released. Citizen video shows the chaotic scene overnight. The military-style vans were used to separate parents from their children. Other neighbors say they saw agents destroying property to get in the building.
And they had a big 15-inch chainsaw with a round blade on it cutting this fence down. We're under siege. We're being invaded by our own military.
The FBI did confirm this morning that they did help the U.S. Border Patrol carry out a targeted immigration enforcement operation in this area, and they say they have been supporting these efforts at the...
Targeted, meaning they cleared the whole building out. Massive immigration raid on Chicago apartment building leaves residents reeling. I feel defeated. This was the Chicago Sun-Times. In the South Shore raid, neighbors said federal agents used flashbang grenades to burst through the building, and several drones and helicopters were deployed. Ebony Sweets Watson, who lives across the street, said it looked like hundreds of agents were outside her front door. Watson said she saw agents dragging residents, including kids, out of the building without any clothes on and into U-Haul vans. Kids were separated from their mothers, she said. It was heartbreaking to watch, said Watson. Even if you're not a mother, seeing kids coming out buck naked and taken from their mothers, it was horrible. Watson said she went into the building to help one of the residents and was shocked by what she saw. Stuff was everywhere, said Watson. You could see people's birth certificates and papers thrown all over. Water was leaking into the hallway. It was wicked crazy. This is later in the article. So Dan Jones and Roderick Johnson, these are residents of the building that was raided, to be clear. Dan Jones, who lives on the 4th floor, said most of his neighbors were Venezuelan and often took turns cleaning the hallway because the property owners did little to maintain it. So the allegation is that there were Tren de Aragua members in the building. They ended up making 37 arrests, immigration-related arrests here. Jones and Johnson said they believed the landlord would kick out the remaining residents from the building, which public records show had previously received code violations. Owners of the property could not be reached for comment. So that tells you how this happened, right? You got a slumlord who's not maintaining the building properly, who's renting to illegal immigrants, who decides, you know what? One way out of trouble and out of this situation is I'll call ICE. I'll have them raid the building, and I'll use this as justification to kick everybody out. This way I wash my hands of the whole thing. I think that's pretty clearly what happened here. You had a scumbag, douchebag, slumlord, landlord. There we go. That could fit on a tote bag. Scumbag, douchebag, slumlord, landlord, who's renting to illegal immigrants and not maintaining the property. And this is a great way out of any potential legal or financial trouble for him. Well, just have ICE come. They'll take everybody out. They'll clear the place out. We'll wreck the joint. And I'll tell people, you know what? Building's in disrepair. Can't live here anymore. Sorry. You got to go. That seems pretty clearly what happened. Breakthrough News also got some interviews here. They put some material together. So let's take a look at one of these interviews here.
I flashbang. Only thing I did, I got my kids out. I woke up to a loud flashbang. Only thing I did, I got my kids out. I seen a lot of troops and guns pointing at my window at 404.
Dozens of federal agents raided an apartment building in the city's South Shore neighborhood early this morning.
My apartment right here in the front of the school.
Neighbors, though, who were in the middle of all of this say they are shocked to have been treated this way.
We got a public school right here. We got daycares right here. I can walk you through the building right now. Every dope still kicked in. Everything still flooded and messed up. They still got kids in that school right now.
Children were also let out of the building.
What 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old want to go through any type of situation that is in life?
They were on the hunt for people accused of drug trafficking or who had outstanding weapons charges.
They consider this a drug-infested area, but it's not. We have families live here. We've been here for years. Just come out and see what we living like. Come out and see what's going on. Don't judge us. I'm speaking from the heart, and I'm speaking really. Is it safe for me to walk up and down the street with my kids? It's ridiculous.
So Governor Pritzker was asked about this on CNN this morning. Let's take a look what he had to say.
The federal agents this week carrying out this massive nighttime raid on this apartment complex in Chicago. Reportedly, they used drones, helicopters, military-style vehicles. A Border Patrol officer told the New York Times that snipers rappelled down to the roof of the building during the raid from a helicopter. What more can you tell us about this raid?
Well, let me also mention that the Border Patrol shouldn't be there either. They're claiming that the shores of Lake Michigan are the border of the United States, and therefore they should be in Chicago. They belong on the borders, truly on the borders, and where there may be some mayhem that they need to deal with, but it's not in the city of Chicago. What happened at that building is shameful. Our Department of Children and Family Services are investigating what happened to those children who were zip-tied and held, some of them nearly naked, in the middle of the night. And again, elderly people being thrown into a U-Haul for 3 hours and detained U.S. citizens. What kind of a country are we living in? And this raid at this building is emblematic of what ICE and CBP and the President of the United States, Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino, are trying to do. They want mayhem on the ground. They want to create the war zone so that they can send in even more troops. Now they're claiming they need 300 of Illinois' National Guard. Well, we didn't need them before they showed up. And what they ought to do is allow us to work with FBI, ATF, DEA, who are civilian law enforcement and understand how to target and take out the bad guys.
Okay, so target and take out the bad guys. So, yes, they claim there were a few Tren de Aragua members here. They made 37 immigration-related arrests here. Now, on the next episode, 'cause it's getting late tonight, we're going to do more of a deep dive on ICE. But this was one of the design functions of ICE, is that you could go in with a warrant for a person of interest in an apartment building, and you can check everybody's papers in the whole building. And then you can sweep up more people based on that one warrant here. Now, once again, and this has been a critique that we have had of Democratic politicians going back a ways. First of all, let's just be very fundamental here. Democrats have been complicit in funding and executing ICE for as long as there's been ICE, right? So we'll get more into that next time, right? So their hands are not clean on this. The Democrats gave ICE a huge budget in 2024 because they were punting on the issue, right? So we'll get more into that next time. But also, you got a Democratic mayor, you have a Democratic governor. You shouldn't have gang members in these buildings. You shouldn't have slumlords getting away with this kind of abuse of people. These are your constituents. This is Chicago. The only reason Democrats win Illinois is because of Chicago. Illinois is a red state with a big blue city right up north. And they are the power base.
It's like most of the country. People don't realize New York State's like that.
New York State's basically a red state with a few blue pockets of very high population areas. So, these are the reason Governor Pritzker has a job is because of people like the ones who live in this building. They shouldn't have to share buildings with gang members, renting or you're paying rent to slumlords. It's a horrible situation that sets the stage for something like this. And Pritzker is now calling on state agencies to investigate Fed's treatment of children at South Shore raid. Now, all of that being said, like I said, Democrats' hands are not clean in this at all. I want you to imagine a world in which a majority white building gets raided like this because there are some suspected gang members living inside it. They made 37 total arrests. I don't know how many were suspected gang members. It could have been a small handful because, like I said, the way ICE functions is they got a warrant for the building. They can do what they did here. They check everybody's documents and they can round up as many people as are in violation of whatever their immigration terms are. But I want you to imagine a situation where a majority white building gets raided like that, and 130 white people get dragged out of the building because they suspect a few Venezuelan gang members live in there, and they zip tie a bunch of white kids and throw them naked into the back of a truck. It would not happen. Would not happen. And if it did happen, imagine what the MAGA chuds would have to say about that. I don't care who the president is. I don't care who the president is. If a bunch of immigration enforcement officers came and treated a building full of white people the way they treated these people, you'd have Matt Walsh making a stink about it. He'd be calling for Pam Bondi's resignation. I guarantee you that, sure as I am sitting here.
Yeah. I mean,
not Pam. I'm sorry. I mixed them up. Kristi Noem. I mixed them up. Sorry.
With the naked children being dragged out, that is really an outcome of what we were talking about in the previous segment. I'm not saying that you have to be the scum of the earth to take a job doing immigration enforcement. You need to be the scum of the earth to take that job under this administration, knowing how this administration is handling this. That's how you wind up with people so lacking in judgment and basic humanity that it would even fucking occur to them to do something like that. Who would do that? You see a naked kid, you drag him outside? Like, that's, again, they are scraping the bottom of the barrel of American scum to come up with people who want to do this job after seeing on TV what this job entails. And that's how you wind up with something like that. In terms of what you're saying regarding they would never do this to a white building. Yeah, man, look, if you travel around this country, a lot of the dysfunctions that you might see in an inner city Chicago neighborhood, you'll see those in white areas that are impoverished that you'll see usually in the South. You'll see, you got to go to parts of the country where you have like trailer parks where it's all white people. In other words, Jerry Springer people. Yeah, those people exist. And if you raided those places, you'd find a lot of the same shit, but they'll never do it because they're white. They will not do it in areas like that. They did a study, because people will, Benny in the closet types will point out, well, why are most of the crimes committed by black people? Well, because those are the people that they raid for crime. They did a study of whites and blacks carrying drugs, and they found whites actually carry drugs at a higher rate. They just don't raid white neighborhoods to find their drugs. And as somebody who dealt drugs as a kid, it makes sense to me because I never worried a cop would randomly stop me. So I would carry drugs, man. If I lived in a neighborhood where I know that's a possibility, I wouldn't be carrying no drugs in my pocket.
Right.
So yeah, man. What if you raided a Wall Street building? How much fucking coke would you find?
Yeah, of course.
On these people, but they're not going to do that.
Right. Exactly. Bill Bobby says here, scumbags and extremely desperate people. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too. I mean, some of these ICE agents are kind of violent types, obviously. But I do think a lot of it is, especially you looking at a deindustrialized country with a lot of people who are, down on their luck financially, in very dire straits. They're in debt. They got chronic illness, and they're alienated from their labor if they do have a job. And this offers a sense of camaraderie and meaning and validation from the government, right? I mean, I do think that people get sucked into this. I don't mean to sound like a Quaker and talk about everyone having an inner light, but I do think it is. I do think it's important to point that out. Like, yeah, I mean, I do think that this is largely a function of circumstance. Look, what ultimately all of this is a function of, and this we're not going to get deep into tonight, but what all of this is a function of, and this is why I can't help but just hate the Democrats for this. This is all a function of this. The wealth of the top 1% reaches a record $52 trillion. All of this happens as a result of that. And it was our faction of the country that warned about this 10 years ago. And the liberals very smugly laughed us off and said, no, you're crazy, you're socialist, you're pie in the sky. Nothing that you say is realistic. None of your prescriptions are doable. And we warned you. We said, if you don't embrace a left-wing populism, you're going to get a very nasty strain of right-wing populism. And here we are. It has happened. It has happened. And so, yeah, I mean, I do think, look, just like the military preys on the desperation of people, I think ICE does that too. Yeah, you got a bunch of people who, you know, like I said, are just down and outs. You offer them meaning. You offer them financial security. You offer them praise from the state to make them feel validated and really like attached to their work. This is what you're going to get. I'm not defending it. I could never do it. It seems very depraved to me, the kind of person who could treat another person that way. But this is what desperation creates, and the whole country is there. The whole country is there now, and it's been ignored for a very long time. And we warned about this 10 years ago, and we were not listened to. We were not listened to.
Yeah, and you make a good point. I mean, particularly in fascist states, look, in all states, very often the economically disenfranchised are the ones who wind up making up the military and the police forces. Right. Pretty much always, right? I mean, that's a cliche for a reason. All the more so in a fascist society, where usually if the society is turned fascist, it means you didn't really have a solid moderating middle class in that society. So you have a lot of desperate, poor, and working class people. And yeah, that's where you get the class traitor, right? Who's working with the police to go crack heads on people in the neighborhoods they came from because they don't want to be the ones getting their heads cracked.
Right. Exactly.
Please clap.